Hello, everyone. My name is Scott Thompson, and this is OnPoint. I am so excited today to have Dalila Masic, a regional medical director from Sanofi's Type 1 diabetes team, joining us today. And you're going to love this conversation because Dalila has been a field medical leader, has moved internal to lead digital and omnichannel solutions within Sanofi, and back into field medical to help apply technology and digital solutions live within the field. Dalila has also, she runs their Sanofi AI working group and has been one of their global AI ambassadors. In addition, she speaks at conferences regularly regarding AI and putting them into practice within medical affairs. Welcome to OnPoint, the medical excellence podcast where we talk to pharma leaders about how to build highly effective medical affairs organizations. So Dalila, welcome to OnPoint. So excited to have you with us.
Oh my gosh, Scott, thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited about our conversation today. I think whenever Scott and I get into a room, it's like these two AI nerds just like chatting about what's hot in AI. So this should be a fun conversation. Before we begin, I just want to note that the views and opinions I shared today are my own and do not represent the views of my employer.
Awesome. Well, let's start. So before we get into the technology and the AI and the digital, all that stuff. So tell us, you were leading field medical, you came in-house. Tell us about the transition and then why you chose to go back into the field and how that experience helped shape what you're doing today.
Yeah, no, thanks for asking. So, I started my career in critical care pharmacy. I'm PGY2 trained critical care. I was at Loyola University Medical Center in Chicago. And then COVID hit, and I thought, it was a really time for a lot of people where you're like, what do I do? What do I do next? How do I continue making an impact in this, unpredictable world we live in? And that's when I transitioned to Sanofi as a cardiovascular MSL. I was at MSL for about three and a half years. And then I transitioned to home office because, the grass is always greener on the other side. I think developed my niche as an MSL. I really hit it off trying to explore digital opinion leaders before DOLs were even a thing back then in the cardiology space. So that kind of created this niche position for me as director of medical omnichannel, which turned into strategy and innovation lead. So I was working above brand, right? I worked across 3 different brands trying to create these digital and omnichannel strategies for brands to incorporate. And then it's great. I love it. I have all these ideas. But then it sometimes the ideas fell flat because I never had those internal champions who actually wanted to implement the ideas and go, right? So you can have the best ideas, but until you can have those internal champions want to advocate for these ideas and want to try them out, I feel like change management is a lot harder, right? So I realized the grass wasn't always greener from the other side. And then I went back to the field as a regional medical director. I started with a team of 10 MSLs and then, restructures. Now I have 7. And the best part is that, you find people who are really passionate about the same things you are, in this case, AI. And I have my, AI MSL work group. And, we have ideas and we just run with them. You want to try something crazy, something new, something we've never done before. Let's help the team become more efficient. So, that's where I really found my champions now, and now I want to build it even further.
That's fantastic. Tell me a little bit about what you learned while in-house, while doing omnichannel and digital across brands that you've brought back into the field and how it helped you find those champions.
Yeah, I think it gave me a better sense of processes and what actually happened to kind of lay the foundation in order for this to be successful. And then coming back to the field, then you find these internal champions. I'm really big about growing and developing people too, which is, again, why I feel that going back to the field felt great for me, is that I was able to grow and develop people by helping them really align with where the company was headed. I understood, the above brand strategy, you understand the barriers, the risks, what are the easier paths forward. And then I can help kind of coach my MSLs, here are all the crazy ideas, let's brainstorm them together. But then I can be that mentor or sponsor to kind of push these ideas forward. So I think it gave me a twofold approach. I'm still doing what I love in terms of exploring new and innovative things, but then I'm also helping develop people, which is that second passion of mine.
Let's dive into a little bit about the tech and the geeky stuff you talked about. So tell me a little bit about what you and your team are doing today with AI? Because for a lot of people, it's still a chatbot that is stuck in Copilot, and I hear a lot of people say it's just not helpful to them yet. What are
Yeah.
you doing?
Yeah, no, I think it's really cool. So we're doing a lot. I think we're really trying to first off demonstrate the impact of what is AI. I mean, how many people are adopting, right? We first have to start at adoption and then kind of go into what are cooler things that we're doing. So I'm one of Sanofi's concierge ambassadors. Concierge is like our internal Gen AI tool. And with that, I get to communicate with people across the company and we get to like share best practices from one another, from like medical, commercial, market access, et cetera, and then try to implement ways that we can help make our teams more efficient. I also I was at Fierce Pharma Engage. I was a speaker on a AI panel. I think that's how you found me, Scott, through LinkedIn. We were like, oh, this is cool. Tell me more. And we really talked about, there's this fear I think that people sometimes have of adopting new technologies like AI, like being, scared that, hey, maybe AI will replace me one day. So why would I accelerate something that I could end up without a job, right? But at the end of the day, I think AI is here to stay, and HCPs are already adopting AI way faster than pharma can even keep up, right? I mean, if we think about like open evidence, there's AI in Epic and other EHR tools. Like our HCPs are already adopting AI. So this is where, that was a real big push of the panel that I was at, is that we also need to adopt. So for those that are, not there yet, we'll talk about strategies on how
Whoa.
to sink your feet into it a little bit and get a little bit more comfortable, because AI is here to stay. It's about how to use it more effectively as a team.
Walk back to when you moved back into the field. You had obviously a lot of time learning and playing with digital and omnichannel and AI, and you had a team that might have been experiencing some of those same fears. Tell me
Yeah.
about those conversations. How does a leader stand in front of a team
Yeah.
and help them overcome that?
Yeah. I did have a lot, right? And the team is very diverse. I mean, you always can't hire the same type of person, right? You like need diversity. You need people who bring different ideas to the table. So that being said, I mean, back when I started, oh my gosh, almost 2 years ago now, I remember having your first AI conversation at a regional meeting. I had like one AI early adopter out of a team of like, I think we had 26 back then, right? It was like one MSL, and we were just kind of geeking out about it. And everyone's like, what are they talking about? So I actually asked my team, the entire team at the regional meeting. So I'm like, hey guys, I have a task for you. I want you to spend 10 minutes a week just exploring, just play with it. If you think about something, put it in, right? We'll talk about like the 5 levels of AI for medical affairs, but in terms of like level 1, right? How have AI help you find information? Like summarize, you know, literature reviews, help draft an email. Like just start small, because as you start small, then you're like, okay, this is what's working, this is what's not working. And then you get to experiment internally. And then once you start on level 1, then you can kind of go, 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 go and think about all the ways that it can help you further.
Absolutely love that. One of the things I've learned about AI is that you learn it differently than you learn other things, right?
Totally.
It's not like you go away and study AI and then go try it. It's you
Right.
go try it, and that's how you learn AI.
Yeah,
Right?
experimenting by practicing with it. So, I mean, it doesn't even take long, 10 minutes a week. Like, just dedicate, block it on your calendar, just play, right? Most companies have Copilot. I mean, there's a ton of free AI tools that, you shouldn't put strategy into or anything. But even for personal life, just like try it and see what output you get. See what's working, see what's not.
Well, let's actually give some real life examples of how you and your team are using AI. And you mentioned that there's 5 levels, and I loved this part of our conversation as we were getting ready, because if people try to jump straight to level 5, they don't have a foundation. And
Absolutely.
let's start at the beginning. What does that first level of AI look like, and how does your team do that today?
Yeah. So first level is consume, right? It's really when AI helps you find information. So this is like the basic, like take 10 minutes a week, I don't know, summarize a guideline update that you want to communicate. Help me draft this email to senior leadership in a tone that's responsive to senior leadership. Help me, use open evidence to help answer an MIR, for example. So it's really trying to answer the question of what do I need to know? Like, how can I use AI to help me understand how to consume this information quicker?
Absolutely, right? Because, well, is that's where AI started when ChatGPT 1 came out. The thing that was amazing is it could consume millions of pieces of information in a moment and then summarize it for you.
Absolutely. So
And
thinking
now,
about being efficient with your time, at least starting from like the very basics of, now I don't have to read all these papers, right? Like, can I get a summary? But I will put that caveat in that AI is not perfect. Like, you should still not take everything that AI spits back out at you and take it as like the truth. Like, you have to check that. You're still in charge at the end of the day.
yeah, especially in the scientific roles, right? We do need to read the source material and make sure that it's accurate. But what I
Absolutely.
love that AI can do is it can sometimes summarize it in a way that I wouldn't have thought to summarize it.
Yeah. And
Right.
I mean, we'll talk about like different personalities as well, but like even summarizing something to help someone with a completely different personality or communication style digest that information. Because the way I learn, Scott, is so different than the way you learn, right? So the more I know about you as an MSL, the more I can kind of help summarize this information and think about it in a way that you would, so that way I can communicate more effectively.
Like, what does a prompt like that look like? You're getting ready for HCP engagement. You've got content and materials and source materials, and you're getting ready to meet with Dr. Scott. What would that look like?
Yeah, I think we'll talk about level 3. I think we're jumping the gun. Let's talk about level 2 real quick, and then we'll jump into the fun stuff.
All right. So step one is for me to consume information, to bring it in, to summarize, to remember whether it's external material or to summarize my emails but it's about making me consume faster. Okay. What's number two?
Number 2 is create. So I think this is where I think most of the public is trying to get up to speed with generative AI. It's really AI helping generate content. So whether that's documents, decks, PDFs, right? Like, help me make something. Like, what do I need to create? So things we've done, like we've draft insights reports. Our internal AI tool can create slides, although again, not perfect, right? You still need that human touch to it. But how do I create something? So first we summarize and consume, help me find information. And then that second step is like, how do I create what I need to do to help me really save time?
Yeah. So what's different about AI when you get to that level, right? Because can I just go to ChatGPT or Copilot and just say, create me a slide deck on this? And
It's so funny. We'll talk prompts, right? Prompts are so important because you can totally do that. But like the way I like to think of it is like garbage in, garbage out. So depending on like how you prompt the tool is going to determine your output. So the more comprehensive your prompt is, like you need to be really specific. If this Gen AI tool is not trained on something that, whether it's your internal tool, the strategy, like include the strategy to it, like give it more context. It can't read your mind, right? At the end of the day, they're good. They're really good now. They're not
right.
perfect. So you still need to like quote unquote train the tool and give it more information. So the more comprehensive your prompt can be, the better your output. And I've heard this a lot, Scott, too, where people are like, "Oh, I tried this and I got garbage out," right? And it was like, "Oh, well, what did you put in?" Because I think that was probably the problem. Now you got out.
Yeah, and you said it's context, right? I find that when I want to create something and it save me real time, it needs to have enough context. And so to your example, somebody called me really frustrated because they had a prompt and it was, pretty well laid out prompt, but they didn't get a good deck at the output. And I said, "Oh, well, where's your source material?" They're like,
Yeah,
"You mean it already knows everything?" I'm like, it doesn't know everything, and it doesn't know what's in that folder of content you have.
totally, totally. So don't expect an end result if you can't feed it the right information that it needs at the end of the day.
Yeah, so definitely give it context. Give it a folder of materials, upload some source materials, and say, based on this, same prompt, completely different output.
Yeah. And I'll share like what some of my results have done also is like, sometimes you have a slide deck of like 70 slides and there's no way you can like screenshot every single slide in there. If you make the screen like extremely small and just screenshot everything, like AI can literally read everything. Like, you don't have to go like slide by slide by slide. Just like, even if the text is like 0.5 font, like, it's okay. Give it that context.
That's funny. So step one is to consume. Step two, I use it to start creating content. So I use source materials, I use context, and create things I share with others. What's
Yeah.
next?
All right. So this is the fun stuff. So now we're getting real fun. We're going into step 3, which is augment. So this is when AI helps improve decisions. So how do I become more effective as an MSL? So going back to your example that you asked about, how do my MSLs use some of this? And, I think that with AI becoming so prevalent, HCPs are getting the answers to their questions in like seconds, right? With like open evidence and other tools. That the IQ part of the MSL role, unfortunately, like, we're just not going to be the ones just providing information anymore, right? Historically, the MSL was like the holder of information, but information is becoming more and more universally accessible. So that doesn't really diminish the MSL role. I think it elevates it, because the future of the MSL is not to be the best information carrier, it's to be the best scientific thought partner. And I think this is where EQ, or emotional intelligence, comes in. And I think it's going to be, 10x more important to be more emotionally intelligent as an MSL than it ever has been in the past.
So go further. What is the difference between a content sharer, content holder, and a scientific thought partner?
Yeah, I think AI is now enabling MSLs to become even more human, right? So we're thinking about, oh, how AI is gonna, there's fears that AI is going to replace MSLs. And I honestly don't think that's the case. I think that the MSLs that will succeed in this AI world are the MSLs who are going to be more human than before, right? So we're not just going to go in and, hey, I have the slide deck I have to share with you, but it's
Oh,
really going to be like the relationships and understanding communication styles and understanding, having people want to talk to you because they genuinely like you as a person, right? I think, Scott, we chatted about like Simon Sinek, and he had that great quote if you wanted to share.
yeah. Yeah. I loved this conversation with Simon where he said, the only reason people are going to need to work with you is because they want to.
Exactly.
And so what are some of those things? So two-part question. One, what are some of those EQ things that a MSL needs to do to be more human? And then this might sound weird, but how do I use AI to help me do that?
Yeah, I love it. So, due to this, but I'm really big into psychology, and I love understanding, because at the end of the day, humans are predictable, right?
Okay.
We are very predictable, but it's really understanding the why, the motivations behind why someone is the way that they are, right? Or how they like to communicate. So, there's a lot of personality assessments out there. We personally focus on like discovery insights. So
Uh-huh.
there's 4 different colors. We have our blue, very analytical people. We have our green, feeling people. We have our people who lead with yellow energy, who are more like forward thinking, intuitive. And then we have our red, like very decisive, direct, blunt. So the way that as an MSL, I need to understand who is my KOL, what color energy do they lead with? And at the end of the day, everyone has all 4.
Yeah.
It just depends on the preferences of which color energy I like to lead with. So, for example, I'm very yellow, if you haven't gotten that
Well,
already. Very yellow, right? So the way that I communicate is I'm very enthusiastic, I'm forward thinking, I'm intuitive. That's what I like. But working in a field where right now we're primarily with endocrinologists who lead with a lot of blue or very analytical thinking,
all right.
I need to change my communication style and approach and how I present data in order for them, in order to match their communication style. Because it's not about how I communicate, it's about what they hear. And the more that they hear in the way that they are, attuned to hearing, the more that they'll respect me, the more that they'll increase my credibility, et cetera, as an MSL. So I think first and foremost, it's understanding, having a great understanding of who is your KOL and how do they best like to communicate.
So how are you using AI to do that and then build strategy to achieve it?
Yeah. So we've been playing around with our internal tool. I'm also a big fan of like just trying new things. So I know we talked about Replit, where,
Mhm.
I don't work for Replit. I'm not sponsored by them, but you can like create your own apps now. I mean, you don't even have to be a software developer or a coder. And like, you can literally just chat with AI on a tool like Replit to create an app for you. So what I did is just in my free time, I created this app, like incorporating like color energies, where I will have the app basically do just a search across the internet, like looking at videos, their publications, their other
Mhm.
credentials for this app to kind of, if I've never met this KOL before, ever, right? And it's my first meeting and I want to be prepared. I want to try to understand what color energy they lead with. What does AI think that they lead with? Because then I can kind of tailor my interaction accordingly to help try to match that communication style. I think the best MSLs will have the understanding of all four communication styles. So let's say, Scott, I researched you and I think you're very green, right? You lead with a lot of green energy. So I'm going into this meeting prepping and somebody come in and you're like, oh, very analytical. You're leading with a lot of blue energy. The best MSLs will know how to switch right away in order to, pick up those cues. And this is why emotional intelligence is so huge
Yeah,
and change their communication style accordingly.
absolutely. After we had talked, an idea for your Replit app, because it would be so easy to add. So I used to do something called type watching, which is a personality approach to watching behavior and then categorizing.
Cool.
Something that I think would be really fun is to actually have the AI ask you as the MSL questions about your observations and your interactions with that HCP in order to classify, because I probably know them better
Yes.
than what might be on the internet.
Totally, totally. So yeah, two different use tools, right? So using it just to research someone I've never met before to give me like a starting point and then trying to adjust communication style versus then again, we talked about like context with these tools.
Or
But again, if you know them, providing that context so that way this tool can actually coach you on, hey, if this is the data I want to present, these are the three things that are going to matter most to them. Because what's going to matter to someone who leads with blue energy is going to be a little bit different than someone who leads with green energy. So how can I kind of tailor my pre-meeting plan in order to communicate what matters most to this KOL? Again, it just helps build trust quicker.
absolutely. So the idea of level 3 is really you're helping to make decisions, and one of those could be, how am I going to present a particular piece of data or a particular piece of science? What are some other examples of how you and your team have used AI to kind of augment strategy and decisions?
Yeah, I think one of the things is really insight too. Like, MSLs come in, a lot of new MSLs are like, oh, what's the medical insight, right? So, we have notes, you take notes after your KOL meeting. So, can you put your notes using this prompt, right, within an app or any other tool to help augment decision making that will help you categorize those medical insights in a way that it actually will change medical strategy, right? Because sometimes MSLs report insights as trends, or they report just facts at the end of the day. But really good MSLs will know how to report an insight in a way that it can help change medical strategy. So again, using AI to augment, like have that conversation back and forth with, hey, this is the insight that I got. These were my notes. But then what are additional questions to dive deeper that you haven't thought of that can
Or
actually help change medical strategy? So
I
at the
love
end of the day, it's like developing, apps to help someone else use them, to help the team. So it's not just more for you.
Right.
Level 3 is more, how do I help create something that the team can use to become more effective? I'm seeing a lot of us kind of jump to the end, even with these like new initiatives, right? Like you just want the final product, you just want to get going, but like they don't really start to think about the patient journey and the care gaps, right? In order to implement into the final product.
But care gap only exists in a patient journey.
But if that patient's journey is not mapped out well enough, you're going to miss the gaps. You're going to miss the gaps that you're not even seeing because you're just like, oh, it's not there.
Yeah, and medical affairs perspective, which I love, is that because the biggest mistake is like they'll say, here's our 4 commercial objectives. Let's go find the care gaps that match them. It's like, do it independently first.
Yes.
And then, yeah, there will be some overlap, but you're going to miss opportunities to
Yes.
increase the number of patients that even make it to those decisions.
100%. Like you don't know what you don't know. So if you're not even looking for it, you're going to miss it at the end of the day. So I totally agree.
Love that. One of the things we talked about earlier is giving AI context. And what I really like about moving to this level is that you can provide shared context
Yes.
to multiple people using the app or the agent or whatever. And so in that example, if I have a shared context around here is the medical strategy,
Okay.
have shared context of here's the insights that we've already gathered in my interactions with this HCP, I could start to ask the inverse instead of just what insights do I have. I can say, hey, based on our strategy, what beliefs and
Nailed it.
barriers don't I know yet?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Which then gets us into level 4.
Okay, tell us about level 4. What's that?
So level 4 is Orchestrate, right? So this is getting a bit more advanced where AI helps coordinate systems and teams to anticipate the need and kind of recommend that next move. I know some companies are already implementing something similar, and it's having AI help predict which HCP is ready for that deeper scientific exchange, right? So based on everything you know about this HCP, based on all the data that you presented, based on, the recent lecture at a conference, can we put all this data into an AI and then based off all this, have AI predict that, hey, Dr. Jones, X, for example, is ready to, move on this scientific adoption ladder. And then these are potentially the resources that you can use to help move him or her. So how do we perform better as a team? So can each team member do this to help predict that next best action for that MSL?
Got it. So this is where AI becomes more proactive, right? Because
Yes.
everything we've talked about so far is me going to AI and asking it a question and asking it to create something or asking it for strategy advice and going back and forth. Now it's coming to me and saying, hey, there's something you might want to do.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so next best action isn't new. People have been using what I would call like a rules-based next best
Sure.
action for a long time. What are you seeing working better now? What are some of like the best use cases, the best ways to make those suggestions or next best actions useful?
Yeah, and I think, like, with these large language models, they're continuously learning, right? Like, they don't stop learning. You create an AI model,
Yeah.
it gets better every day. Like, today is the worst that any AI model is ever gonna be because tomorrow it's already gonna be better. So I think the more accurate data, I should say,
Mhm.
that is included in these models, the better these predictions will be. So I think that's what makes it a little bit different than in the past. We're thinking about next best action based on rules. Now we have these LLMs who are continuously learning on every single piece of data that's being input. And, I think it's important that MSLs know that it's still a suggestion. At
Mhm.
the end of the day, your KOL best, but I think this is where if you can also provide suggestions to the model of like, this did work or this didn't work, then again, the model's going to learn based off of that. And then the next suggestion is going to become that much better. So the more accurate data that we can have and continuously have this model learn, I think the better it's going to go.
One of the things that I'm excited about, so the last couple of versions of AI that have come out, have been much better at this. And so, just as maybe as an example for everybody, people had started trying to have AI be proactive by asking it to do things like, if I haven't followed up with
Mhm.
Jeff in 3 months, send me a reminder to do that. Right. And then you might put in another scheduled AI suggestion, right? If this, then this, it, right? But now you can actually go in and give it a goal, right?
Mhm.
Say, my objective is to maintain a relationship and increase the frequency of my engagements, my interactions with this group of people.
Yeah,
Go.
I love it. I love it. I love it. And I
Yeah.
think being specific in that goal is going to be huge, right? Because don't give it a vague goal, like, give it a specific goal. Because the more specific you can be in terms of what you want to achieve, the better these actions will be.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's Orchestrate. And by the way, with Orchestrate, are you doing any orchestration outside of like the big corporate next best action? Or is your team using like the scheduled prompts and stuff like that to create those triggers?
Not yet. Different companies have, different regulations, and everything with AI is highly regulated right now. So,
First,
at least for us, it's just mostly the corporate.
got it. Okay. So then what brings us to transform? What's this top level of
Yeah.
I consume data, I help create content, I'm augmenting my decision making and my thinking, and now it's being proactive and giving me suggestions of things I should go do. Now
Yes.
what? What's level
Now
5?
what? So transform is really, I think, the highest level right now. It's when AI helps change patient outcomes strategically, right? So I think you started talking about this a little bit in terms of like an agent with a mission, not a task. Give it a mission, give it a goal. And then you will have these like dream cycle agents that improve overnight. So I'll give you an example. And at the end of the day, what's the transform level? It's what are we trying to change for patients? So again, it's giving that broader medical affairs strategy overview of why are we doing this at the end of the day? It's literally for the patient. So how do we help change some of these patient outcomes? So you'll have like an MSL agent that learns nightly which engagement patterns, really move the needle, whether it's for us specifically like earlier diagnosis, screening adoption, diabetic ketoacidosis reduction on a system level change. So you'll have those system level data, you'll have, HCP data based on, whatever you interact in the CRM. And then
Yeah.
overnight, you'll have a suggestion the next morning. Hey, based on all this, and it'll continuously improve. It's going to predict, which engagement patterns move the needle for that KOL.
So this is something that I believe is a work in progress everywhere. How far
Agreed.
along have you seen it? Have you seen any early evidence that it's working?
It's very early, I would say, and not in medical affairs. I've seen it within other industries, but not yet within medical affairs. I think right now, pharma is a very highly regulated environment, so it might take time. But unfortunately, like our HCPs are adopting AI faster than pharma can keep up. So I'm hopeful that this will continue to accelerate, and I know a lot of people do have this as top of mind. So it's just how to get there safely.
Very cool. So let's jump into something you talked about, and you already described it, but I want to learn more about not what the app is, but how you went about building it. Because there's one thing to go use AI,
Yeah.
and then there's this other thing of using AI to build something that you're going to go use.
Yeah.
And so, like, how do you even like come up with the idea? I'm going to go to Replit and build like software. Like you're now a software engineer.
Okay, it's so funny. So I've always wanted to build an app, but like I just never had the skills back in the day that I'm like, oh, I just can't do this. But I think I'm an idea person. Back to personality assessments, you're gonna laugh, but one of them was like initiator versus maintainer, right? And it gives you like a percentage. And for me, it was like 100% initiator, 0% maintainer. Like I'll come up with all the crazy ideas. It just like takes me a little bit to like push through it. So I've had all these crazy ideas for a while now, but AI just made it that much more feasible to actually go and implement them. So I've always been super involved in like the psychology of things and trying to understand people. And I read a lot of books about it too. And it just takes practice, right? It takes like a cognitive, like, hey, I need to do this. I need to pay attention before it becomes like second nature. So I'm like, okay, for my MSLs that are not really into this, like, how can they do the same thing with like half the effort, right?
Yeah.
So that's where I'm like, okay, again, going back to what I said initially, just take 10 minutes, 10 minutes a week. Like, if you
Yeah.
notice a problem or if you want to fix something, just like start playing around with AI. And that's kind of what I did with this Replit app too. So I was just like, let's just start. And I just started like chatting with it, all my like crazy ideas. And it just started building, 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 right? And like, let me tell you, version 1.0 was not it, right? So you constantly have to go back and tweak it. And you're like, oh, I really didn't like this output. Or like, when I researched, it's completely wrong. I know this person, I was just A/B testing it, right? So it's just giving it more and more context. I think we're just highlighting all the things we did as you continue to build your AI skills. And then you get to a certain point where you're like, okay, I like this. This is a good like MVP, minimum viable product. Doesn't have to be perfect. Let's play with it and let's see what we get. So
And so then you
still building
share
it.
app with your team.
No, not yet. Not
Okay.
yet. So again, rules and regulations, right, within the company. This is just like a side project I did that I'm still kind of A/B testing. And interestingly enough, our internal tools are getting so good that we're incorporating some of our ideas into these internal tools. So it was me A/B testing that we can, help scale within internally as we build agents.
Yeah. Isn't it funny, right? Because to bring in people often are able to understand and learn and adopt something faster that they can see than just a concept you explain. And
Totally.
one of the things I'm loving about AI right now is even if I build something that the corporation can't use because it's not in the right infrastructure or the right database or the right security model or
Sure.
whatever, it's easier for me to get my ideas straight, practice, iterate, and then say, hey,
Yes.
guys, could we do something like this? And they look at it and they like, oh, I don't need to ask you 1,000 questions. I can see it.
Yeah. Yeah. For those like people who are visual learners, right? Again, going back to the personality styles, for those people who are visual learners who need to like see it to believe it, you can literally create it. If you ask me how long it took me to create something like this, literally 30 minutes. I was
Woo.
like after work watching TV and just like hanging out on the couch and just playing with it. Like it took 30 minutes to create something like this. So imagine if, you do spend more and more time on it, perfecting it or, coming up with different ideas that, I mean, now's the time. If there's
Yeah.
any time, it's now to explore all that you can do with these
Well,
AI tools.
yeah. If you've ever said, man, I wish I had an app that did this, all you have to do is explain here. I want an app that does this and it'll go. And, one of my favorite questions to ask AI is for me to say, hey, take a look at what I've been describing and tell me how to make it better. Like you don't need
Yeah.
to know all the answers. It'll figure it out.
Your bell. And then just pick, whichever area you want to focus on and like just go, go, go because, you know, there's a lot more you can do. You don't even realize it until you try it. And I'm sure that, whoever the listeners of this podcast are, like when you're listening, there's problems. You're dealing with problems all week, right? So every
Mhm.
week, pick one problem that frustrates you the most. And you're like, oh, I wish I could fix this. I think I know how. And I would just say experiment with AI to solve it, whether it's your personal life or your professional life. Just start playing with it. Pick one thing that you think you can solve, and that's the way I did it, right? And I'm like, oh, this should be easier. There has to be an
Yeah.
easier way to do it, and then just go and experiment with it.
So what's your next one? What's the next problem that you're going to try to solve?
I, I'm like been back to back between conferences and vacations, so like I think you bring up a good point is that like you actually need to like sit down and think about it too. I haven't honestly between you and me, I haven't had time to even like think about what's next. I think we're like currently in the area where I'm working with my AI work group to like we created this newsletter. We're assessing, change in AI utilization over time. But we're also soliciting feedback from others, right? Within our team of like, hey, what's a problem that you have that you want to fix? Because what's
Mm.
important to me may not be what's important to my Amazon in, I don't know, New York City, that's having different issues. But if we don't talk about it collectively as a team, you may have like the best idea that I'm just like not thinking about at the time, just given other priorities and time constraints, right? So we're encouraging more of our team to submit ideas. And I think that's how we'll go further.
Very cool. Let's talk maybe about one more thing. Um, so if let's say teams adopt AI and they're able to do 5 times, 10 times as much as they could do before, what's the like where do you direct that extra energy, effort, and capacity? Like what's the mission that you and your team are on that causes it to be meaningful that you're able to do so much more?
Yeah. So I love this question because I think it's a question that doesn't have an actual answer yet, right? What are we going to use that time for once AI does help make us more efficient?
Mhm.
Also, we did a baseline survey of our team and we found that over 50% of their week was admin work, right? So I think that's an easy one where, if we can reduce admin work to less than 50% of the time, 30% of the time, 20% of the time, does this open up more time again to be human, to spend time with your KOLs, to travel? Because travel also takes a lot of work, but we don't have a solution for that yet. Takes a lot of time. But if we can at least like step one, reduce the admin level, can it give you more time, more face time with your KOLs, more ways to help mend that relationship and become, again, more personable and more human with them? So I think that's one. But once we solve that, Scott, then what, right? Like once we get admin to a minimum, we
Yeah.
get MSLs exploring with HCP, having those relationships, having those conversations. Like, what are we going to use the time for?
Yeah. uh, I'm really curious to see where that goes because one of the things I'd find in corporate work is that oftentimes the demand has to come before the real supply, right? Like if you started thinking through that answer, I said, you know what, right now most MSL teams have the capacity to make an
Sure.
impact with maybe the top 1,000 thought leaders in a
Yeah.
space. But how do we, in medical, impact the lives of 20,000 care providers? Now, I don't know the answer to that yet, but if that was the ambition, we might approach AI differently.
Very true. And instead of like asking AI to do more things, like, oh, meet with more people, which
Right.
you know what I mean, quality over quantity. How do we have AI help us become more impactful, establish more meaningful outcomes? I think that's probably the next step in this medical affairs transformation that leaders will begin to ask.
Awesome. Um, So I guess for you and your team, if next week every member of your team could save 6 hours a week, what would you repurpose that time for right now?
So right now, again, I did mention this. I'm really into professional development too. And sometimes I think as an MSL, you get really bogged down one in the admin work, two in the territory work, and three, you're meeting with KOLs, you're developing your relationships. But most people also want to develop themselves professionally. So
Oh,
that's when I would encourage my team to take on those extra projects. Like, hey, you're looking at potentially going into a medical director role. Let's get you time with the medical directors. Let's get
yes.
you in, study review committee. Let's see what this would actually look like. Great. So again,
Yeah.
it's like unlocking time, at least for now. And, my answer may change in like 3 to 6 months
Right.
too. Yeah, going so fast.
Exactly.
But like I would use that time now to help my team develop more of those professional development opportunities. And let's see where this can take them. If you can offload some of the admin work and the MSL work, right? Can we focus more on how we can take you to the next step?
Here's the hard part about taking it to the next level. It's not about doing more with it. It's about removing other stuff.
Yeah, I love that.
And
That's hard mentality for medical affairs. I mean, going back to interactions, even,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's like more, more, more. We can do it
And
all.
it's about what we choose to remove, not what we're going to add.
Yeah. And it's so hard to, like, shift the thinking, do you know what I mean? Because we've always been like, "How can we do more and, like, show different impact, etcetera?" So, I mean, I think it's a fun time in medical affairs now that we're, like, rewriting the playbook in a
It's
sense.
super fun. Well, thank you so much for joining us. This has been an amazing talk. I really enjoyed our time. I think the biggest takeaways that I heard, one is that you learn AI by doing AI, and the
Yeah,
fact that you rolled up your sleeves and tried it, and you know what? Nobody asked you to build an app. You built it, and you might use it, it might be thrown away, but either way, you're better off because you did it.
yeah.
Uh, I just love that, and that the other piece of it of having the ambition of being human with your HCPs, right? We're not going to be able to compete on information sharing.
Absolutely. And,
Well,
in a couple years from now, every medical affairs organization, I'm not even gonna say a couple years, maybe in months, like AI is moving so fast, right? That this is inevitable. Like every medical affairs organization will have access to powerful AI. That's not going to be the differentiator.
right.
The differentiator is like who can turn information into insights, insights into action, and then action into better outcomes for patients. AI can accelerate that journey, but again, going back to the EQ, it's that trust,
Yeah.
empathy, curiosity, and scientific judgment that remain profoundly human. So, in many ways, again, I'm going to highlight this, going to be that spiel, but AI isn't making medical affairs less human. It's giving us the opportunity to be more human than ever. So, I encourage the listeners to really take that on and see how we can explore this.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks, Scott.